Okay, so hopefully you guys just finished watching the video I posted that explains compound interest. Now, the biggest thing that I can emphasize to you guys with the compound interest is you're paying interest on interest, or you're earning interest on interest. Now, this is the formula that we use when we are talking about compound interest. So this, if you guys downloaded the notes I posted, it's at the top of the notes. So that is there. I've just kind of laid out where everything is that you guys needed to know. Now, when we're looking at compound interest, well, compound interest gets compounded at different times depending on the account, the establishment, whether you're paying it, whether you're earning it. But this is the formula that we end up using. So the biggest thing I need you guys to remember is that N is the number of times that it's compounded per year. So if it says semi-annually, well, that's twice a year. So both N's would be 2. Now, if I take a look at your first example from the notes, your first example from the notes says that you have an investment of $12,000 at a 9% annual interest for 5 years. Now, first of all, I need to tell you 9% annual interest is ridiculous. If you find that somewhere, you invest in it, okay? Because you're never going to find that. Now, if I was asking you guys to figure out what your total was or your balance was after the 5 years, well, that's going to vary depending on the number of times that it's compounded. So the first one here asked us to write or figure out if it was compounded quarterly. So when we go to set this up, well, if it's quarterly, that's telling us that N equals 4. Now, the $12,000 was our initial investment or our principal. So P is going to be $12,000. The 9% was my interest rate, but I need to change that to a decimal. So that's 0.09. And then my time is 5 years. So now I need to go ahead and I need to plug this in. So I end up with A equals 12,000 times 1 plus 0.09 over 4 raised to the 4 times 5. So when we're looking to calculate this interest right now, or calculate what our balance is going to be, it's really just a plug and chug kind of situation. Now, trying to get my, never mind, I guess I don't need a calculator cover. Okay, so when you guys go to plug this into your calculator, do not piecemeal it. You can plug it in just like it's written, with the 1 plus 0.09 divided by 4 raised to the, if you have an old calculator that just gives you like the little caret key in the parentheses, either multiply 4 and 5 together on your own or put it in parentheses. So one other thing to know is that I am a stickler about rounding to the nearest penny. So we end up with $18,726 and then 11 cents. So this is my balance after 5 years. Well, how much do we earn in interest? So that balance after 5 years, that includes my initial principal. So if I take away that initial principal, I end up with $6,726.11. Again, if you can find 9% annual interest somewhere, invest it. Okay. Now, what's going to end up happening, though, is we're going to end up with different amounts depending on the number of times that it's compounded. So we're going to look for weekly. And so if we're doing weekly, what's going to happen is my N is going to change to 52. And then if I do daily.
Mom, I saw that.
You fell. Where'd you fall? You fell down the stairs a little? I know, it's like the third time today. Are you okay? Sorry, she just wanted me to acknowledge it. I was trying not to. All right, so n equals 365. So I'm going to pause this, stop it. I want you guys to try to write the equation for these. Now, here's your big hint. The only thing that's changing is your n value. So, while I was doing these problems, Joey just came downstairs crying that she still had poop on her butt. And all I gotta say is that I kind of wish it had been on video because the drama of it was kind of funny. And there was no poop on her butt, which is probably the only reason I found it funny. Life as the mom of an emotional 5-year-old. All right, but what I want you guys to see here is I went ahead and calculated what we would get if it was compounded quarterly, weekly, daily. And I want you guys to look at it for a second. So this was quarterly. All right, then we get to weekly, and then we get to daily. So what I want you guys to see, though, look at the difference between weekly and daily. Over the course of 5 years, the difference is only about $6. And so, you know, that's not a huge difference when we're looking at this investment. So what I want you to take away from this is that the more often that it is compounded, the more interest that you're going to earn. But it's not always going to be significant. You're eventually going to reach this limit. And that's where the number E is going to start coming into play soon. Now, I do have one more example that I want to go through with you. And that is if I asked you guys to figure out that, oh, I should probably not write crooked for you. So if I tell you after 12 years, your account it's compounded monthly at 1.2% for 12 years. So my question is, how much did you initially invest? So if we know that our formula is this, R over N raised to the NT, well, I know my balance after 12 years. So that's actually going to be my A this time around. So $5,412 is going to be A. And I want to know how much I initially invested. Well, that means I need to find my principal, or P. So this is my unknown now. So I end up with 1 plus, my rate is 1.2%, which is actually still a pretty good rate. So we end up with 0.012 when we change it to a decimal, and it's invested it's compounded monthly. So we know the number of months in a year are 12. And so then we're dealing with 12 years. So that's why we have the 12 times 12. But I'm looking to figure out my principal. So this is what I got here. I got to figure out what this is. So in my calculator, I have 1 plus 0.012 divided by 12 raised to the 12 times 12. And so this is the number I get. So I don't like to round. You cannot actually, do not round until the end of the problem. It will affect your answer. okay? Don't round till the end of the problem. So I've just done this in my calculator. And now, in order for me to solve this, I would have to divide both sides by whatever number this is. So in my calculator now, I'm going to do 5,412 divided by, now some of you will just arrow up and hit enter. Some of you will have to hit second negative to get that number up there. So we end up with $4,686.52 is the initial investment. So try those 2 questions I posted for homework and have a lovely day.